Hi there, this is Shannon Urban-Denise, and I am the founder and CEO of Rome THC Beverages.
Awesome. Well, Shannon, we'll start out with tell us a little bit about Cloud Level Flyover. What is Rome and what is it that you guys produce?
Yeah, so Rome is a THC beverage company. We have right now 6 SKUs. We're primarily 10 milligram across the board. Why we're different is that we are a small family-owned company. We make Rome at a small craft brewer, and we decided to try it without any chemicals. So we use real Italian juices, real Italian purees. Amaretti is the brand, right? So not cheap stuff. We don't have any artificial colors, flavors, or sugars, but every can of Rome is under 90 calories, right? So I basically made a beverage that I wanted to drink. So it has a nice flavor. It has a beautiful color. The color varies from batch to batch because juice varies, right? The color's not always going to be the same. But Rome is the best tasting beverage on the market, we have been told by our distributors. My husband and I started it back in 2021. And it's my first foray into the beverage industry. So I don't know what the hell I was doing. Sometimes I still feel the same.
Perfect. Well, I'm excited now that you just told me your husband and you are in business together, because that's something that I have a huge interest in as far as the mechanics and the logistics and all of that, as like working with your partner both in the world of your business as well as at home. Like how do you guys balance that and and keep the yin and yang and flow?
Yeah, it actually works pretty nicely because my husband has a manual therapy business in Princeton, right? So he focuses on the day-to-day in Princeton. And then I focus the day-to-day on Rome. And so it works nicely, but I won't lie, sometimes I'll text and be like, I did something crazy, don't be mad. And he'd be like, what did you do? Oh, I didn't put labels on, 20 pallets of product. And then his head explodes and then we're arguing over, dinner. But that kind of stuff happens and you just have to go for it. But I think probably the biggest overlap is when there's been threats to the hemp industry, which is there hasn't been many times where there haven't been since we started in 2021. That just constant anxiety and sleeplessness that we've experienced over the years, that makes the house kind of heavy, which is tough. If, I've always worked outside of the house in like University of Pennsylvania, and most of my career was at CVS Health. And so then you could come home and have somebody who can hopefully uplift you, right? But then when you're both totally down about the same thing, I think that gets a little heavy sometimes.
I think it's I feel it as well, and I'll connect with you on that. Is like we're in a blended family, and my girlfriend and I, she also is business owner, and she's in the solar and battery and sustainable energy space. So right before our ban, our house just got finished of her going to DC, meeting with congressmen to protect from the big beautiful bill bullshit, and the dismantling of her industry. And then all of a sudden, like a few months after that, I'm for the first time in my life walking into a Capitol building to do the same thing for my industry. Yeah. So the last 6 to 8 months, we can feel it. Our house definitely connects.
I bet it can take a toll, but it's also fun because when you're celebrating, the whole family is like dancing in the kitchen, right? Like we all feel it together, which is nice. Like when I had a corporate job, if I came home and was celebrating, everybody was like, yay, mom, but they didn't really get it, but they get it. Exactly. The kids see it. They see the day-to-day, they see the up all night type of stuff. And so they really saw us building it from zero to where it's at now. And the tears and the sweat and the blood, all that good stuff. So hopefully we're teaching them a good lesson too.
And that's exactly what I was the second thing I was gonna say was that it's that if anything else, it's shown us the strength and sustainability of what we built. And that's the key that every day we keep reminding each other of, is like when we have those moments, and they're just moments, they're not long out. It's like we're building something strong here, and it will stand the test of that. So I want to go back to the business and go back to Rome here. So when you guys started, what was the precipice moment? Like you were working with CVS and University of Pennsylvania. What was the moment where you were like, let me rephrase, what was it that influenced you to say there's an opportunity right here? And then the next thing, what made you say, I'm going to do this on my own and I'm going to start this rather than go jump with another company that was already doing it?
Yeah, so for me, I actually, back in 2021, I did not know about hemp THC. I didn't know what the thing, back when I went to Drexel, someone handed me a bong freshman year at a frat house. I tried it and I lost my mind. So I have not been a big fan of THC throughout my life. And so I really wanted to stick with what was safe and what was like socially acceptable. So I drank wine like a lady, right? I only drank alcohol. I stayed away from drugs, marijuana included. And, I wound up in 2017 in rehab. So I really thought what I was doing was safe. It was that mommy wine culture. And it almost killed me. I'm drinking up to 4 to 5 bottles of wine a day. Like, that's not what a lady does. That wasn't the plan. And so in 2021, I was 5 years sober from alcohol. I went to treatment, and then I sponsored some women, and I went up and really was involved in the recovery community. But my anxiety was so bad that I would literally pull over and be sick. Like, I couldn't stop it. And I didn't understand what was going on. I did find out that I had Graves' disease at the time. And so when your thyroid is that overactive, right, it can disguise itself as anxiety. But I went to my husband. I said, I think I'm going to drink again. And my husband hasn't seen me drink before alcohol. My ex-husband sadly got the front row seat to that one. So sometimes I don't know if my current husband knows how like dangerous it is. And so he was like, well, there's hemp, he does manual therapy. So he told me about it. I was very against it. He took me over to a place called Jersey Meds that is in Pennington, but now they're Holistic Hub. So they're fantastic. And they kind of talked us through, and I tried Delta for the first time in their small standard can. And I was like, wait, I can drink this? Like, I was so confused, but a light bulb went off, right? I tried an edible and then I tried a beverage, and they hit me differently. And the beverage was so gentle, I felt in control. And that was kind of how wine made me feel in the beginning, right? I knew how much it would help me relax and all that stuff, but I couldn't stop once I started. And so I loved the idea. But for me, then I just dove into the Farm Bill, right? And I was like, so is this saying what I think it's saying? Could we be next to alcohol? That would be amazing, right? That's what almost killed me. There's nothing intoxicating in alcohol stores besides booze. And so my husband said we should go for it. So he financed me, and we started with one flavor. We made it down in Texas at some brewery that we left. And then I didn't want to lose all of our, savings. So we did the one flavor, we sold it well, and then we launched 3 flavors. And so we just decided to take out the chemicals, right? So sometimes they will have a hemp taste to them, but sometimes with the chemicals, they can have a bad aftertaste the next day as well. And so what we learned is if you take those out, you're not going to have that aftertaste. You're not going to have that big brain fog that isn't a hangover, but it takes a while to shake off in the morning. And so they taste like Italian sodas, light, crisp, clean, lightly carbonated. We also have a tea that is in 10 milligram non-caffeinated. And then we have it in a black hole edition in a 30 milligram. We only did a higher dose in a limited time edition because, for one, I prefer the lower doses, 10 milligrams, not like 2 or 3s. For myself, but our distributors were asking for it. So we went to 30, but going much higher kind of tugs on that social responsibility for me. And I think that's where we can get in trouble. So now that hopefully the regulations catch up, states like New Jersey, which is our primary states where we manufacture, that's going to be going to a 10 milligram state, and we can only produce up to 10 milligram in that state as well. So the 30 milligram will be going away by April as well.
I'm going to connect with you as well, and I'm going to try not to get emotional when I tell you this in a good, and this is because a positive thing is we followed the same track. In September of 2018, I went into rehab. And
were we like drinking together at Drexel, and we just didn't know it?
I'm having a moment here where I'm trying, I want to preface this by, because this is going to be on camera, and I want this kept for my own thing, I want people to understand that I do bring strangers on here, and I did not know this, honestly, when we came on, that before we went on live and introduced, we found out we actually overlapped in college together. And I'm getting chills actually all over my body as I say this, because it kind of correlates to where we are today in society of what the drinking culture meant like at that specific time frame of being in college, and how it's not the same culture today. And actually, the fact that you and I walked the same sidewalks and probably drunkenly went to Taco Lou's at between 11 and 2 a.m. together, and I saw that reaction. You've been at Taco Lou's before. So September 2018, I went into rehab, and and I spent my entire career in alcohol, and I had a complete identity crisis. My face was the logo, it was the beer race, it was everything I'm doing right now. It was a platform for craft beer, it was education, it was advocacy, it was training, it was sales, and it was my face, and it was a cartoon and all this stuff. And I mentally broke, and I couldn't figure out where to go with things. And the reason I'm getting choked up is products. Your product specifically was, for me, one of the products, as well as some non-alcoholic products from Brewdog and Athletic, that I tried from 2018 to 3 years ago to get sober, and I couldn't. And when I fell so hard. I literally went into a second divorce of my life because of it all during that period of time. And now I'm in, like I was saying, the most healthy relationship of my life. And we actually get to connect another way. She has never seen me drink a drop of alcohol.
Really?
But on the flip side, she has also we've known each other since we were 7 and 8 years old, and we grew up together. So at least, like, she has the full story of my life, and she knows who I was. And that's the beauty of where we are, is that she's helped me get back to where I was and where I got lost.
Yeah. I mean, it's crazy because when I graduated college, all of my peers, their drinking went down as their life responsibilities went up. And mine was just like the same. My drinking came with it. The more stress I got, right? Like, my ex-husband and I bought a house, right? Like, the only time I didn't drink was when I was pregnant, and then the second, it was just so irresponsible and dangerous. And sometimes, my current husband will say, oh, my ex-husband and I, we argue, or we have just this like heaviness. And I'm like, there was just a lot of shit that you don't know, right? Like, he had to deal with a lot. And after something like that, it's hard to come back, and then I was sober a year. I lost 70 pounds. Like, I felt like the real Shannon was under there.
I'm 6'3", 250. I was well over 300 before when I got sober. 100 pounds just flew off.
It's crazy. I mean, the first year though, everybody, yeah. I mean, me and Sour Patch Kids, I think I put on more weight that first year. I was a monster, like drinking soda. I'm like a Buddy the Elf. Like, that was me the full first year. And then once I hit a year, I was like, I'm going to take this on. And then I did keto. I lost all that weight. And then, the next step was to, finally say bye to the marriage, and then it was like a rebirth. It was fantastic. So I was terrified to try hemp, but I was also so desperate to not be living in this constant like fear that I was being chased by somebody. And the people that I see when I do tastings, because I do a lot of tastings in Jersey. And in the beginning, I thought, people told me, oh, this is beer. So they want like 25-year-old girls. And like, I was like, well, I'm 40 and I wear sweatpants. So I don't think that's going to work. And then I hired some promotions companies and they were selling nothing. So I was like, they hate the product. And a store owner actually down in Ventnor called White Star, he told me that I need to go and do my own tastings, that it's not like that anymore. And people want to be educated. And I went out there and did them, and it was like night and day. So now we've got our own tasting team, right? And they kick butt. They just do tastings for Rome and they run around. So it's really nice to have women like myself be the ones that come up to me, right? I thought it was going to be college kids in the beginning, and it is not for us at least. And so I've got women who have to get up early in the morning. I've got 3 kids, 14, 4, and 7 months. I think 5 o'clock, 2 of them were up last night. I have Rome every single night. I'm up a bunch of times. When I would be drinking, I wouldn't hear my daughter cry at night, right? Because I was passed out. I wasn't just sleeping. But with Rome, like, I fall asleep faster than worrying all night. But I hear everything that's going on in my house. I'm up and down. I just don't lie awake. So it's kind of crazy how different it is, but I'm so proud of you. And we just met, but my husband was looking at it and he's like, did you know he went to Drexel? And I was like, what?
I did not know. I intentionally, I don't mean that in any disrespect. I do it as part of, to keep the authenticity of the show. I literally go founder brand, and then I send you the message where it's like, I'd love to have you on my show. And I don't go deeper than that because of this reason. Is this exact reason is I love being able to find out, and I actually want people to see when you can make those connections really quickly with people. I also I want to say too is that I know we can't make any health benefits, so I'm going to say this in the disclaimer, and that this is my personal experience, is that the THC does. If anybody is sober, and I know the sober community in certain ways is going to lash out by me saying this, and I'm prepared for that. So F off. Is there are people that need to, if you feel like the inclination of the things we're talking about and those things are resonating, and you're struggling to get sober and you're still drinking, try 30 days of this and see what happens. Mm-hmm. If you're sober and you are worrying you're going to break, and the breaking day is right on your doorstep, try one of these and see if it works, because you have nothing to lose but the opportunity to try. I say this in the sense that the THC, that chemical, that whatever you want to call it, the molecule, it does not faze me like alcohol. I do not drink THC beverages habitually or routinely or ritually. I don't drink them every day, and I don't drink them at scale. And I want people to understand that it's not scary, because there's a lot of times where I get messages where it's like, why are you telling people that are sober to start drinking THC stuff? That's the devil. Well, yeah, because I went through AA, and they told me the same thing when I started getting sober and I was drinking non-alcoholic beer. They told me it wasn't true sobriety. And I want everybody to understand, and I want everybody to hear the passion of what I'm saying is there is multiple paths to sobriety. Sobriety is a journey. It is not a defined path.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you on some points.
And I know it's going to be, I don't expect you to agree 100%. That's okay.
I'm a very protective person, and I think that when I started this company, I was scared. I was scared for anyone in AA to find out. One, because I felt I would be judged, right? Because I'd probably be judging someone else, right? Like, oh, it's just a matter of time, But my main point in keeping this away from my group at AA or from Caron Foundation, which is where I went to treatment in Warnersville, Pennsylvania. Shout out, they saved my life. I would say that I am an alcoholic, right? So I have not ever had an addiction to opiates, but I've known people that are sober and that I've lost. And so I don't want, because this was my journey, to influence anyone in sobriety where complete abstinence is working for them. Because for me, it worked for 5 years, and I did a lot of work, a lot of therapy, a lot of steps, And so I kept this away from them, because if it does take somebody back to the drug that they want, right? At least for me, if it took me back to booze, that was my responsibility. Mm-hmm. But if it took somebody who had worked hard to get off of opiates and say that under the influence of THC, they wanted to do that, like I just was obsessing over putting anyone else in danger. Now I've been a couple years in, right? And I have been loud and proud about it. I have, I have family members who struggle with drinking. They've come to me, and, my first piece of advice for people is to get to a meeting, right? Let's talk about it, meet other people that are dealing with addiction. I don't usually tell somebody like who's newly sober, like, try this, right? Mm-hmm. Like, I'll somebody at a tasting will say, oh, my brother just got out of rehab. Should I give this to him? And my answer is no. Give him a minute, right? For his baseline to repair, for his brain to get healthy again. So I think that there are multiple paths. Mm-hmm. For me, I was completely abstinent for 5 years before I discovered this. My anxiety did not go away when I got sober. Okay. I am on Zoloft, right? I see a therapist. It is a very holistic thing to be sober, but there are people in my life that are very resistant to getting help. And then in that case, I'm like, okay, just try this for a couple days instead, but it's tough. Sometimes I feel like a Rome feels like a glass of white wine to me. They help untie that knot in my chest and like sink into my seat. So it really does feel similar to me. And like you said, I could drink a half and I put it back in the fridge.
Yes, and that's the defining factor for me, is that I didn't have to finish the stuff sometimes.
Yeah. And I'm not out. like obsessing about like how much is at home. I mean, obviously I have a lot at home, right? Because we own the company. But before with alcohol, it was like, how much do I have? Where is it hidden? How can I sneak out and get it? Because at the end, it wasn't even like I was allowed a glass of wine and then I had 20. I was supposed to be completely abstinent and I was still drinking. So it was a total mess. But I don't know. I tell people during tastings, they get nervous, like, well, what kind of reaction am I going to have? And when I would drink, I would turn dark at some point, right? Like day drinking and like all of a sudden I'd be pissed off at the world and it would be like a bad night from there. But with Rome, the craziest I get is like giggling till my eyes are, crying. So it's just so different that I wish I had known. I wished that I had this option available so that I could try to use it to manage my anxiety instead of thinking that alcohol was the only option. And that's what I feel like they're still trying to do to us, is just force us to drink. And I don't understand why the choice isn't ours.
No, it's not. And that's what it comes down to. Again, I'll remind people that the mother business of all this is called free mind. Is exactly that. It's that the oppression, the control, and the things that are going on a daily basis. And to see, our health and human services the other week in a press conference about the food pyramid closing out by saying alcohol is a vital piece of American society. And there's so much divisiveness in the world. It's a social lubricant. I think we all need to have some more drinks together. That's literally what they said in their press conference 2 weeks ago. It gives me chills and it makes me the most disgusted thing, because here's the thing. There are people in this world that alcohol is perfectly fine for them, and it is that for them. And that's okay too. But we need to not ignore the fact that there is a large portion of this population that alcohol is a escape. And that's what they want, is they want us escaped and they want us entertained and distracted. I firmly believe, and this is my passion for the hemp beverage business, is hemp beverages are a presence product. They allow you to be present with your children. They allow you to be present at your job. They allow you to be present at 6 a.m. when you get into the shower. Alcohol is good for some, but if you're a risky drinker and you're drinking in consumption, it is not a presence product. It is an escape product. And that's a choice we have to make in life. Do you want to be present in your life, or do you want to escape your life?
Yeah. Well, I want to do both. And I feel like with alcohol, right? Like I had to drink at the end, I had to drink so that I felt okay and my whole body wasn't shaking, but I wasn't present with my kids. I was thinking, my daughter is the only one that I had when I was drinking, but I just wanted her to play with her toys, right? Or watch TV, just like let me be. If I was drinking or if I wasn't drinking, my mind was still just on drinking. I couldn't be present. And then the time where I was present is when I had like 1 to 3 glasses, right? Like the sweet spot. But I never stayed there. I never stayed there.
The anger starts at 5, 6.
God, my ex-husband would call it the white devil, like Pinot Grigio. But honestly, it didn't matter.
I was that as well. That as well. And I want to come back to the brand in a second, but I want to help you as well, or not help you, but help everybody else as well in understanding that it's not a flip switch. And what we're about to jump into, I'm going to jump into your entrepreneurship story, but I want everybody to understand the reality of sobriety as well. Sobriety is not a book. Sobriety is not a one conversation with your sponsor. Sobriety is every minute of everyday decision to be in control of your life. And also that involves work. And you just said it as well. I did the same thing. I went to rehab. I own that. I went to a therapist for a long time, and I fixed the core problem, because taking alcohol out of your life or taking whatever substance, I also was addicted to pills. I was prescribed by a pill popping doctor, and I went while I was drunk, admitting everything I was doing. And she was signing me up a cocktail of all kinds of stuff. I don't take anything because I can't, because it's not that for me. So I'm a dual one when I say this, but I want people to understand that it's a holistic thing. That's what it was. It is all that. You can't just read the book. You can't just talk to the sponsor. You have to go see a therapist, or you have to talk to a professional. BetterHelp.com. If you don't have a lot of money, it's a couple $100s a month for BetterHelp. I use that to start until I got some other footing under me. There's a bridge. There's an opportunity. Join the groups. AA meetings are all around. I will say AA didn't work for me sustainably in the long term, but it was a crucial piece of the foundational building in the beginning. I outgrew those types of situations with my personality, but it was foundational to set the routine. Yeah. And that was just a secular differential. It was my issue with religion and the relationship with the overtones of Alcoholics Anonymous. They exist for a lot of people, and they serve a lot of people a lot of good. I think I just want people to understand there's so many paths. So let's move on to I want to go to the empowerment part of this. Is we've been talking about our not from a victimhood standpoint, but from where we've been. And I actually want to take the last half and talk about where you are.
Okay.
And I want to talk about when that moment when you decided to start your own business. And yes, you got, your husband had the funding and everything like that available, but that's still more than the core thing. You like, just with alcohol, alcohol wasn't the factor. It was a core thing you had to fix. And once you figured out the core thing you fixed, you were able to live your life and accelerate in a positive way. What do you think was the driving factor that made you want to do it on your own, as opposed to jumping in between, regardless of the financing? Because there's a part of your personality that is different than a lot of people when you want to become a founder.
Yes. I had always felt like I hadn't found my purpose yet. While I feel like being a mom is absolutely my purpose, and being a daughter and a friend, I felt like there was more I had to offer. And the corporate world was great. It taught me so much, but I think that like my anxiety disorder really went to a different level. And then I went over to a startup called Community Veterinary Partners. And they kind of remind me some of the things you talked about. They purchased a majority stake in veterinary hospitals so that the owner could focus on practicing versus accounting, marketing, operations, hiring, all that good stuff. And so I always kind of felt like founders were a little unapproachable and, excuse my French, but like assholes. These three guys, I wish I could give them a shout out. They were they were so kind, and they taught me so much, and they were just personable, cool guys from Philly, very successful, but they never made you feel dumb. And when that made me feel like it was possible, how welcoming they were. And you know, when I came in, they owned the company and they were getting it ready for private equity sale. I didn't know what any of this stuff really meant. You know, CVS was a monster, so it was just like jump on the train that's already moving. And so I was there for about 6 years, and then I went over to University of Pennsylvania. And while I have, you know, a ton of respect for the institution, it was not for me. I didn't enjoy working in undergraduate admissions. You know, my role was to increase the applicant rate, but they weren't increasing their acceptance rate. So I felt kind of strange encouraging more and more students to apply when majority of them were getting denied, if I'm being honest. So I started Rome when I worked there, which is probably why I got let go. Plus I went to Drexel though, right? Like
these life experiences, I'm going to give you another zigzag here, or another little weave. So when I started FreeMind, I had to have a day job like everybody else, and started out as a side gig. And what I did was, when I worked in the beer industry for a few years, I said, all right, I'm going to start this business, but I got to go back to the boarding school that I got a scholarship at, and I need to go give back to the community and the academic world. And so I did 2 years of fundraising for my high school for their scholarship program, raised like $4 million for their scholarship program. And then I was like, okay, now I'm done. You know what I mean? Like I did that. But I'm going to say, and this is not about my school in general, so I know people do listen, so I'm not speaking about them. I'm talking about the industry as abroad. I couldn't actually continue working in that industry because I was distraught with and I guess I'm just going to say, because today we see it all and we're seeing it live every hour, was raising money for scholarships and underserved children while I was one of them, but in the veil of a black tie affair that costs more money than sometimes some of the money you raised from the checks of the event. And my P&L brain was constantly going, why the fuck are we having these white tablecloth events? Why don't we just write checks and just have that be enough? Why do we have to boost the ego? Why do we have to stroke the ego? Why do we have to pay for these letters to put on this building and charge for a building that's not actually what it costs? And then if it's not actually what it costs to make that building, where the fuck does the rest of the money go? And that's where I guess it's institutions as a whole. I'm not going to pick on academia. I'm just going to say that I think we're all realizing a lot of the bullshit that we did. Just a little bit of real time is what's going on in the world today that is reflecting what I'm saying. Yeah.
Yeah, you know, listen, I don't think that it's university specific, right?
No,
I think that it's what you're dealing with at every single one. That was just my first experience working at a university. And God, everybody that I worked with, they they cared so much about the students and everything like that. For me, I had a real corporate brain, really corporate, right? So it was like, what's the call to action? You know, like, what's the ROI? And they were like, just chill. I was like, oh my God, this stuff takes forever. But that's okay. We were just very different. And, you know, plus I went to Drexel. So we, you know, dragons forever. I couldn't like, I was like a hiding, you know, a spy.
That's it's funny too. Like I tell a lot of people about like going to Drexel, and they're like, "Well, you went to college for 5 years. Were you having trouble or something like that?" And I was like, well, I was on academic probation the entire time, but that was the same in high school. I was on academic probation. The only reason I was able to finish my high school at boarding school and then finish at Drexel was because of my integrity, my character. The amount of times I was in front of the academic counselor, and he was like, "I'm going to bat for you again." And he's like, keep doing what you're doing. Like I was working full time. I was building my business. He knew I was going places in life, but he knew that I couldn't function on a standardized test structure.
Yeah.
And that was my learning disability. And that's not a victimhood statement. It's the fact that I knew I'm a very smart person. I'm highly intelligent, but you give me a multiple choice test for 7 pages, I will bomb it. And it's just because I will overthink every question, and I will poke holes and do all those things. But give me a blank piece of paper and try to get the same result of my intelligence of the topic, and I'll run through walls and nail it for you.
Yeah. I think a lot of people are like that, but you have to work within the silo that you've been hired, right? So you not only have to complete the work, but you have to do it in the way that they're requiring. In the office 3 days a week, and then the work from home days, you have to write up what you've done. It's like, do you want me to finish the project or not? You know, things like that have always struck me as crazy. They'd be like, well, if I give you work from home days, I have to give it to everybody. And I'm like, fantastic. If you don't trust them, why did you hire them? You know, like I'm a grown woman with children, and I'm like having to prove, and I'm by my computer. It's crazy to me. But you know what? I was raised in a place where that was safe. You have to check, you know when it's coming, you know how much it's coming for. You can get a mortgage with that. Like we just got a mortgage with 2 self-employed people. That shit was crazy. Like it is hard to be self-employed out there, you know?
It is. And it's I'm gonna try to take a shot in the dark, and I'm gonna give him some credit. My counselor advisor at Drexel, see if we had the same one since we were in the same college, Mark Costello.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Are you kidding me?
I think well, I do know I almost didn't graduate on time because I saved Accounting 101 for my last semester, and I was in the, office hours sobbing. And he would just like, Shannon, I don't know how you bombed your final. Like we did this together. And I was like, I can't do my times table. I can't do long division. It was like crazy. So
my senior year, the same thing happened. I had to go to Bucks County Community College at night while I was also going to Drexel to get the last credit so I could graduate.
That's like 10 minutes from my house.
Talk a little bit about where you're located and where people can find you on the shelf, and then plug the website. So DTC opportunities for people to support you after hearing your story today.
Yeah, absolutely. So we're in about 15 states, but I would say our largest states right now are Minnesota, North Carolina, obviously New Jersey, Pennsylvania. You can buy it online at roamdrink.com, ROAMDRINK. And for 20% off lifetime until, we close, hopefully never. Roam with Friends is the promo code you can use on the website. Our store locator is updated, and so you can find us there. And listen, I answer everything. Instagram, anything on the website. And I will say this, I tell everyone struggling from sobriety, drunk, sober, hard day, I don't care if I don't know you. Call me, email me. We are literally in this together. Okay. And I think that these beverages are helping so many people. And if they take it away, quite frankly, I don't know what I'll do, because drinking's not an option. I got 3 kids now, I cannot ruin my life. I can't pick somebody up from school after I've had a couple glasses of wine and think that I can get away with it. Like either I would be dead or I would have hurt somebody I loved if I didn't figure this out. So while people think that alcohol is the way to go, it's not. And things can be a lot more dangerous out there. If I'm out there drinking and driving, like at the end, I didn't care. I was making the worst decisions possible. because I didn't care about myself and my mind was totally fried. So, I went to Bermuda last year, 2 years ago, and obviously I couldn't get a beverage. We picked up a hemp vape. I took the shallowest 2 puffs and I was high out of my mind. I was back to when I smoked a bong. Like, for some people, hemp at a reasonable dose in a beverage form is the only way to really go, because sometimes other methods can be too harsh. And so I want to work together with the cannabis industry as a whole, right? Like, we have people in New Jersey that are calling me stores that are closing because of the changes, and they are good, hardworking people. And so anyway, it's tough right now, but I hope that things get figured out. We believe in this space. We believe in everybody who is going for, reasonable regulations and 21 plus. We were 21 plus when we started. When I started, I was like, okay, well, we'll do 21 plus, like the cigarette age. And someone was like, or I thought it was 8 cigarettes were 18. So I was like, we should obviously be, sorry, I'm getting my words mixed up. Cigarettes were 18, I thought. So I was like, then we would obviously be 21 plus. But then cigarettes are 21 as well now, which I didn't know that either. So why would anyone think that this should be under 21 is beyond me. So you've got people who have a social responsibility and have started these businesses, and there's going to be some people that are bad players that are dropping off. And I don't wish for anyone's business to go under, but if you're not being truthful about your compliance and your dosages and what's in there, then you either need to get on the right side here or find something different, because I think everybody that has, reasonable expectations for where this is going to go knows that they're going to have to jump through hoops and get things done. And we all are okay with that. Spending the money on 1 million lab tests, all that stuff. If you're not doing that already, you're probably part of the reason that all this stuff's happening.
I'm going to validate everything you said and tell everybody also, after you finish watching this, thanks for watching this, but also go to Chris Fonte's episode, which will also be up, who's a board member for all of the hemp beverage associations that exist, and literally went through the same thing, and very passionately, which I think the clip's going to go out later today, says if you're not part of regulation and you're not investing in advocacy and regulation, get the fuck out.
Yeah, it's we all have to work together. If you're trying to go as high as you can go for as cheap as you can go, and you don't care if it's in gas stations or if it's behind the counter, like, well, you're the one that, I'm a 14-year-old, that is the age that is getting these things, vapes and all these things from gas stations that are not, being safe with it. When we first launched in a gas station, they wanted to put it next to the Red Bull. I was like, absolutely not. This has to be behind your counter. If someone thinks that, oh, the Red Bull sugar-free is out of stock, let me grab this knockoff energy drink, and then they're high at work, or what if they drive a school bus? Like, we all have to care about that stuff. I don't want kids taking this stuff. Are you kidding me? I don't think anybody who owns, a hemp, THC, or a cannabis company wants children taking this stuff. So
no, it's I have a 11, 14, 15, and 20-year-old. And that's where that world is. Yeah, my daughter's a daily Red Bull drinker. And I'll talk about I talk about this in another one with one of my clients, Happy Beverages. They have Fungi Fusion, which is non-THC, lion's mane cordyceps and reishi, and then they also have the ashwagandha L-theanine with another client. When we're together, she doesn't drink Red Bull. She drinks those and she loves them. Yeah. And her whole reason is, I wish these were at every gas station and stuff like that. So she literally would I would replace Red Bull overnight. And sorry, Red Bull, if you were thinking about being a sponsor, we don't have sponsors in the show. So sorry about that. But anyway, in closing, Shannon, I want to thank you again. Not just for taking the time, but for having the courage and the cojones to hop on here and talk to me and share your story and trust me with your story. I already said it earlier, but I need to say it again and remind people there are no scripts. There's no agenda. Shannon and I, despite the fact that we went to college together, we just realized that in front of all of you. And the fact is, we do not know each other. And we want people to realize that as crazy and beautifully destructive as this world can be, we have more alike than we do in common. So we encourage both of us, I'm going to speak on Shannon's behalf as well, is talk to a stranger, ask somebody how they're doing today, and actually pause and wait and actually listen to what they say and actually care about what they say. Look strangers in the eye. Stop looking at your phone while you're walking down the street and look at the human beings that are walking down the street. There's just everything's going on in everybody's mind right now, and together is where we need to be. And that's, at the end of the day, just quit being a piece of shit and start giving some good, positive vibes and start doing some good things, and not just saying the spiritual things, do the spiritual things.
Yeah.
So thank you, Shannon, so much.
To make a difference out there and care about people that you don't know.
Absolutely. Shannon, thank you so much. I'm very excited. I'm going to send you an email with some recaps and when we're gonna launch this, and then I'm also going to send you some emails, some other things I want to talk to you about. So for everybody to know, we'll be definitely locking arms and getting this PA legislation passed. So we'll get you in front of these lawmakers and start telling your story.
We can't wait. All right.
Excellent.
Thank you. I'll talk to you soon.
Thank you. Take care.